Fielding stalls and objections. You know, when you think about it, there's only one person who's qualified to handle and resolve a prospect's stalls and objections, and that's the prospect. Now, if stalls and objections frequently come up in your prospect calls, it's a good idea to bring them up yourself before the prospect has the opportunity to do so. If you bring them up first, a minimum of 3 good things happen. First, it builds your credibility when the prospect sees that you're not afraid to bring up stalls and objections even before you're asked to. This promotes a feeling of trust and greatly contributes to open interchange. Second, you remain in control of dialogue and not the prospect. Third, you can save time and get down to business faster and easier. Here's how you can handle stalls and objections up front.
Sometimes when I talk to people about what C.A.R.S does, Chip, and it may not be the case here, but sometimes they tell me one of the following. They think C.A.R.S somehow takes advantage of people, or they suspiciously view all job opportunities like this, or they have a basic mistrust of anything financially related these days. Would any of these be of concern to you?
The idea here, as you'll see, is to take 3 or 4 of the most common misconceptions or objections people can have about cash card style employment and phrase them as a multiple choice question that prompts the prospect to select one or more. This technique smokes out an objection that might get in the way of your progress later in your dialogue with the prospect. And when your prospect selects one of the objections, you then reverse by saying,
"Really? Any particular reason why you chose that one?"
Additional simple questions, as required, can be used to probe a bit further to find out the real objection. You can then decide if the prospect's objection will be a problem, if you wish to handle it later in the dialogue, cover it with one or more cash card features or benefits, or exactly how you may wish to proceed. Another variation of this reverse becomes helpful when you hear the prospect raise an objection. For example,
"Your upfront fees? That's just too much money."
I see. Please allow me to tell you what I most often hear when people say that.
Or,
people generally say that for a number of reasons, which include,
bring out multiple reasons, then reverse by asking, which one of these, if any, explains your comment? Here's an example of how this can be stated.
People often say that, Chip, because they think that their bond money's lost, or that the return on their modest business investment just isn't there, or that they just don't see the value, or they think C.A.R.S needs to bear more of the financial responsibility. Do any of those match how you feel?
Getting past what-if objections and stalls. Not all prospect interactions and presentations run smoothly, and sometimes it's not hard to hit a bump on Representative Road. Now, these bumps may be because of your own mishandling of a situation, or they may arise because of a prospect's conflicted feelings about your offer or other aspects of his life. Either way, if we want to make the most of our skills in dialogue crafting and want to salvage our hard work so as to ensure that the transaction is completed, we need to learn to deal with these obstacles so that prospect needs are met. The first step in this recovery process should be to uncover the real reasons behind a prospect's objections or stalling tactics. Only after you've discovered a prospect's motivation for putting off moving forward can you begin to reset the situation. Once you know the reasons behind the objection, you can begin to create solutions that will soothe your prospect's mind and protect the time you have invested in this dialogue. You need to be vigilant about your behavior during this process, or you risk alienating a prospect and losing a sign-up. There are 6 common mistakes that reps make when they encounter a prospect's objection or stalling tactic. First is simple fear of the prospect's reaction. Reps can end up losing a conversion opportunity because they didn't discover what the prospect really wants. For example, a rep can dread hearing the words, your upfront requirements are just too high. It's almost a knee-jerk reaction to respond with decreased upfront requirements. A rep should instead be proactive and try to uncover the unique decision criteria important to the prospect so the price objection would never come up in the first place. Fear of a prospect's reaction is most often a sign that the prospect's pain was insufficiently flushed out early on via simple questions. The second most common mistake reps make is to take the objection or stall personally. Although in our heads we know that a prospect's bad attitude does not reflect on our worth as a human being, sometimes our egos get in the way. We internalize the prospect's negativity and we absorb the prospect's bad attitude within ourselves. And when a prospect brings up a problem, this is not the time to get defensive and seek to explain the problem away. Not only will the prospect probably not be too thrilled with your response, but you will have failed to address the heart of the matter, which is what you can do to fix the prospect's problem. Third on the list of common mistakes reps make is rushing to judgment. As reps, we should work to focus all our attention on the prospect and their needs. However, sometimes we fail in this pursuit. Instead of listening to a prospect's complaint and the specifics of their situation, we swoop in to present our solution. In this rush to cut to the chase, we come across as rushed, arrogant, and poorly directed, and the prospect ends up feeling that their input doesn't matter. There are two reasons we make this mistake. A, we want to be the white knight, the expert, and ride right in and show off all our knowledge by providing the solution before the prospect even has a chance to finish expressing themselves. And B, we're in a hurry and feel we don't have the time and energy to devote to the prospect. Fourth on our list of common rep mistakes is beating a dead horse. We all have prospects who take up too much of our time for no return on the situation and no gain. We continue to return to them because we've come to know them and hope that maybe someday they will tangibly reward us for the consistent attention we pay them. What we need to realize is that there are some prospects we just do not want. Whether it's a prospect who continues to string you along or a prospect who demands to speak to you whenever the smallest question arises, there are times when you have to make the decision, and it can be difficult, to terminate one-sided relationships. A fifth grievous mistake reps commonly make is to shift blame. Organizations have for years embraced the concept of teamwork. When things go awry, though, it's easy to point fingers. Donald Trump's show, The Apprentice, really brought to life how individuals can turn on each other in order to protect their self-interest. In that show, the boardroom meeting with the Donald showed a different side of the contestants' characters. One individual was to be eliminated from the show each week, and so one individual usually got singled out for letting the team down. Although the team concept is preferable to the lone, excluded, estranged, or outposted rep, what happens on Trump's show plays out repeatedly every day in both corporate America and in the interpersonal dialogue between individuals. Unfortunately, there is no blame to shift in agent recruitment. Any necessary changes to be made must be made by the rep. The last mistake reps commonly make is to approach all prospect complaints alike. Some reps have a one-size-fits-all approach when it comes to dealing with prospect objections. They may offer to lower their price by 5% or throw in some extras automatically without actually listening to the reasons the prospect is concerned or upset. While traditionalists are conditioned to respond to objections with concessions, they fail to appreciate what their prospect is telling them, i.e. the personal reasons, pain, or discomfort behind it, and how they really wish to be treated as individuals. Additionally, prospects are thereby learning that whenever they complain, they are rewarded with concessions it becomes a bad treadmill for the rep. Prospect motives for stalling. Now that we've examined the problems reps can encounter when dealing with prospect objections, we need to learn why prospects object at all. It's important to know why prospects act in these ways in order to effectively overcome these objections and move on with concluding the agent agreement. So, why do prospects bring up objections to proposals and use stalling tactics? Being human, prospects have hopes, dreams, aspirations, fears, and concerns about most or all aspects of their lives. Client motivation, as you recall, comes from various sources which include career goals, performance pressures, and competition. All of these factors operate within a prospect's mind as he is deciding whether or not to become a cash card agent. Among the main prospect motives for stalling or raising objections we have is, what if it doesn't work? Most of the prospects you interact with will have some measure of concern about their futures as connected with being a cash card agent. They fear the outcome if they go ahead and become an agent, only to find out they're somehow not cut out for agent level work, have problems interfacing with cash advance prospects, or experience some other fundamental critical glitch in the arrangement. Cash card, after all, works. Certain types of personalities work with it better than others. Perhaps their problem is a wrong outlook or misunderstanding of business operation fundamentals. Maybe a remedial or review approach to operating procedures would fix the situation. Buyer's remorse can sometimes linger for quite a spell. Time and successful performance are the best cures for that. So you'll need to draw out specifics of the prospect's real concerns and uncertainties, and then build assurance bridges back to the cash card program. Anytime a person makes a large commitment, even though the dollars expressing that commitment can be relatively small, the psycho-emotional overhead of that commitment can weigh at least as heavily as any dollars involved. Because people are generally cautious, a good track record is required to help convince them. A volatile economy causes many candidates to simply return their head deep into the sand and avoid making a decision. In this economy, I've had enough pain, they can reason. You and I, of course, know that such a response is self-defeating, makes things worse, and only painfully postpones the need to eventually face a problem correctively so as to resolve it. A second primary prospect motive for stalling or objections is, I just met you. Many prospects can be skeptical and uncomfortable around new people. They may not respond well to someone they've just met approaching them with a new kind of employment offer with a company whose business premise may seem strange or unproven. As a consulting cash card lead agent, you can use being a prospect's new acquaintance to your advantage. How? Because you've worked with a growing number of agent prospects, you've developed the ability to see the bigger picture, while most prospects tend to be caught up in the minutia of day-to-day life and business. Now, even though you have these valuable perspectives, the best ideas often come from within each prospect themselves. Your main job is to constructively, productively draw them out. As a fresh set of eyes, you have the opportunity to bring fresh perspectives to the prospect situation. A third primary prospect motive for stalling or raising objections is, this doesn't make sense to me, I just don't get it. Now, this is a common stall based on uncertainties which, interestingly, seldom have anything to do with the prospect's inability to mentally grasp and come to cerebral terms with the cash card business premise. Some people, however, simply lack vision and live their whole lives reacting rather than proacting. When you ask them what their long-term goals are, they don't have a clue, or they think ahead no further than, say, the upcoming weekend. Many others simply lack the confidence to initiate solutions to their own problems. A prospect, though, will never admit that he doesn't have the confidence to make a decision. Instead, he'll mask this fear with statements such as, I'm concerned, I'm not ready, or I don't feel comfortable. As a rep, you'll need to use your experienced professional judgment to determine whether this person can be motivated to change, or if you need to move on to another more viable prospect. A final primary prospect motive for stalling or raising objections is, I just don't like you. There's a lot to be said for person-to-person chemistry and psychosocial interchange. As an active recruiting cash card lead agent, it's inevitable that you'll encounter prospects with whom you have no connection or poor person-to-person chemistry. If, for example, you're a fast-paced and decisive individual, you might be challenged to deal with a prospect who's more deliberate and likes to take things slow and mull over decisions. In this instance, clashing with them on some level or over certain matters may be somewhat inevitable. When this happens, it can be easy for the prospect to get wrapped up in the personality conflict while disregarding the benefits of your offer. Once again, it's your responsibility as a professional to pre-recognize when a conflict such as this may arise and adapt your approach accordingly. Certainly, you're entitled to take your own reading on the person and the situation and determine for yourself if this is someone with whom you wish to embark upon an interactive working relationship. Frankly, life's too short and business is too good. You have every reason to expect, at minimum, a good meshing of your personal gears with those on your team. If the prospect with whom you're meeting evidences too much baggage, too much personal overhead, or the likelihood of being too demanding or immature, it's your call whether you wish to continue or simply, as they say, cut bait and move to another fishing hole. Now, whatever the reason behind a prospect's objection, you're best served as a cash card rep to discover that reason and then professionally deal with it as you choose.